it's a lesson for us in Africa to learn that anyone who thinks that they can be part of the global trade is wrong. In the global trade, you are either a master or a slave, and you cannot be an equal partner for those who hold power, who hold money, who hold technology.
We have a special guest returning to the show. Moussa Ibrahim is a Libyan political figure who served as Muammar Gaddafi's information minister and official spokesman during the Libyan civil war in 2011, frequently denouncing rebel forces and NATO intervention in defiant press conferences. After the fall of the Gaddafi government, he fled to Egypt and then to Serbia. He has remained involved in politics, frequently speaking publicly about Libya's political situation. Now, we all know that the Libyan, Barack Obama calls it his biggest blunder. That's quite an understatement. And so what they did was another, at the behest of Israel, illegal decapitation of a government. And now it's a failed state run by terrorists and has open slaves markets. So we know this. And by the way, the United States bombed their water system, which was considered the seventh wonder of the world. We did it and we wrecked it. How? Because we used uranium-tipped bombs, depleted uranium-tipped bombs to poison their water. That's how we helped out the people in Libya. So once again, the terrorists are NATO and the United States. So let me bring on Moussa. Moussa, thank you for coming back on.
I'm very happy, Jimmy, to be with you again.
So I'm here to talk to you about what's happening with Africa right now economically. And this is from the Center for Strategic International Studies. It says, how should Africa respond to Trump's new tariffs? And let me just give a quick rundown. 51 African countries, 29 countries will face a baseline of 10% tariffs, while 22 other countries are going to face tariffs up to 50% for almost all their products, excluding a very short list of products such as certain critical minerals deemed necessary to the U.S. economy. The tariffs apply to all goods except the following: steel and aluminum articles, that automobiles and automobile parts already are subject to this other tariff; copper, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors and lumber articles; all articles that may become subject to future Section 232 tariffs; bullion, I'm going to guess that's gold; and energy and certain other minerals not available in the United States. And here's a quick, so the countries in gray, they have 0 tariffs. The countries, in dark gray, they have 10% tariffs. The countries in gold or yellow, they have 10 to 30% tariffs. And in green, they have 30% tariffs or more. And just to let you know how much business we do, the U.S. total trade with Africa was an estimated $71.6 billion in 2024. The United States exported to Africa $32 billion in goods and imported from Africa almost $40 billion in goods. Now, the specific impact, there's a country called Lesotho. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They face the highest tariffs with a potential 50% levy on its exports, including denim and diamonds. Madagascar is hit with a 47% tariff on its good, including apparel and vanilla, impacting a large swath of their population. And Mauritius is going to be hit with 40% also. So what's the consequences? Tariffs are going to raise the cost of goods for the United States consumers, including jeans, chocolate, ice cream, and it's going to disrupt supply chains. Tariffs could disrupt global supply chains, especially for products like denim, diamonds, and vanilla, which are heavily reliant on African and exports. And plus, there's going to be job losses. They could lead to, particularly in sectors like textiles and apparel. And the tariffs could lead to increased inflation in Africa as the cost of imported goods. There's a need for regional integration. The tariffs highlight the importance of developing regional trade networks within Africa to reduce reliance on external markets and build more resilient economies. So let me just go to you. What's your response to the tariffs and to what I just said?
Absolutely, Jimmy. Let me just point out that for some time now, I have been the executive secretary of the African Legacy Foundation, which is a society that was established by the sons and daughters of the leaders of African liberation, the very great leaders from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that led the fight for Africa to be liberated from Western colonialism. So the sons and daughters of Mandela and Nasser and Nkrumah and Lumumba and all of the great names. And we are based in Johannesburg. As for Africa, the Jimmy, it's quite an interesting image because it's not unified. We have three sectors of the economy in Africa. We have the extractive sector, meaning, of course, oil, gas, gold, copper, iron. And then we have the manufacturing sector. And then we have the subsistence economy of Africa. Now, the tariffs were directed at, of course, especially the manufacturing sector. And most of the tariffs and the numbers you read out loud now were in direct contact with this sector and badly affected hundreds of thousands of workers and badly affected the local economies of countries from Guinea to Ghana to Senegal to Ethiopia and many others. However, Trump's administration says that they are not directing any tariffs on the extractive sector. But I would say that's because it's already robbed, it's already extracted, it's already taken out of Africa. We know the numbers, almost 140 billion US dollars are extracted out of the continent, with very little being paid back to the continent itself. The only sector that actually survives this, and this is a very, very important point, is the subsistence sector. So shepherds, fishers, people who work in local industries, artisans, anyone who is not linked or organically structured within the hegemony of the financial centers of London, Washington, New York, have basically survived these tariffs. And this is a reminder that maybe this is the way forward for Africa, not to link its economies to the global market, but to unify its own markets, strengthen its own manufacturing sector, and maybe also look towards the East, where better trade agreements can be reached with China, India, Korea, Japan, and to Latin America, Brazil, and Argentina. So the picture is varied, is multi-layered, and it's a lesson for us in Africa to learn that anyone who thinks that they can be part of the global trade is wrong. In the global trade, you are either a master or a slave, and you cannot be an equal partner for those who hold power, who hold money, who hold technology.
So do you think this, in a weird way, even though there's a lot of economic pain, that this will actually spur a positive development where the African countries will seek other markets like China? Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they go to China? Because they're not tariffing them, right?
This is exactly what is happening. And it got a boost in the last few months. So countries like Mali, like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Uganda, I'm naming the very countries that now have turned completely to China and India. India is becoming an important player as well. And they are already proving that this is the right choice. And they are showing it to other African countries, to the extent that important politicians from bigger African countries, such as South Africa, Nigeria, they are speaking out loud now and saying, look, of course, they're speaking to the West. These smaller African countries have directed their efforts to the East and Latin America, and they are getting better deals. You have to change the way you treat us. But what I know for reality, for sure, is that the West will never listen. These financial centers, all they care about is extracting wealth from the continent and making sure that Africa does not join the global market on equal footing, because if they do that, it means they will not be able to rob it anymore.
So do you think this will have a bad effect on the United States?
It will have a bad effect on the elites, on the oligarchy in the West. As for the general population, that's a different matter, an internal matter for Americans and Europeans to change the very structure of their national economies to make sure that there is economic justice and just distribution of wealth. But this news is bad for the financial centers in the West. I do believe, and I really wish my brothers and sisters in the States will pay attention to this. There is a major revolution taking place in Africa in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's not just like the China or India or Brazil are coming, or Russia are coming into Africa and conditioning the continent to their needs. It's actually the other way around. Africans are going out and reaching to these rising economies and bringing them back into the continent. And I have been touring Africa in the last few years. I have never seen such development, infrastructure, radical structural changes in the economies of Africa as I have seen in the last 2 or 3 years. There is a major change, and I think the West is feeling it. And that's why you have your General Langley, who is the commander of the AFRICOM, just yesterday talked about how important it is for the states to keep a strong military presence in the continent. And he blasted African revolutionary leaders like the leader of Burkina Faso and Mali because they nationalized their extractive industries. So it's quite weird for a military general to actually go out of his way to comment on political leaders and their economic policies. But this tells you what is happening in Africa is very important.
So, I mean, so you're talking about AFRICOM, which
AFRICOM, yes.
People in the United States are not made aware of what AFRICOM is, what they do. We're completely ignorant to it. And it was invented in like 2007, I think, by George Bush. And it's basically to have a military presence in Africa so that we can ensure we can influence governments and extract natural resources, right? Isn't that basically the job of AFRICOM?
Absolutely. And it's not a secret. If you read the statements by AFRICOM year in, year out, they always, of course, they talk about stability, fighting terrorism, but they always highlight their role as guarantors for the extraction of natural resources. They are moving in for the first time, by the way, under Trump, into the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is a huge country, one of the biggest in Africa, with over 100 million population. And they have some of the richest lands in the whole globe in terms of minerals and natural resources. And now American military boots are on the ground in the Congo, fueling civil conflict there and fueling unrest to make sure that the globalized, financialized capital has free, unlimited access to these materials from the land of Africa. So, yeah, absolutely.
Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Bakersfield, San Jose, California, Buffalo, New York, Toledo, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, Liverpool, Birmingham, and London. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.